Where'd he go? Oh, he's transforming. Was in PoE1. It's like the most premium stat you can get, right? I got a map. Hey guys, it's Anti-Swipe again, coming you with a second build of the season, league, whatever you want to call it, for PoE2. This is going to be a very interesting one because it's something that I've never done before, but I've always thought about doing. I believe I tried it in Path of Exile 1, and it kind of worked, but it was very, very squishy. And so now that PoE2 is out, I wanted to try it again now that it's in this game. And it is the Doryani's prototype armor. So as you can see from this armor, it says armor applies to lightning damage taken from hits, and enemies in your presence have lightning resistance equal to yours, and your lightning resistance does not affect lightning damage taken. So there's a big downside to this armor, while the upside is able to scale your damage to astronomical heights. In my case, I'll show you without a Doryani's or without a Ventur's Gamble. My lightning res is at minus 60 because this is what you get when you get to maps. Minus or not getting the Sisters of Garukan quest done, or the lightning res from both of those done in both Act 2 and Act 2 Cruel. I'll talk more about that in the Mobalytics guide, which I have down below. But the way that it affects mobs, and I will put this back on, is monsters' lightning res is equal to yours. So in this case, every monster that comes in my presence, or comes into my presence, which is about, so if this is your character, it's about here, maybe a little bit further, but in your presence actually refers to 6 meter radius around you. And there doesn't seem to be, I don't believe there's a way to increase the area radius of us, at least not right now. But it does say that this can be modified by presence area modifiers, which I couldn't really find anything on the tree. If I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments. Would love to increase that, because we do have. There are moments when I'm mapping where I do want to stay away from mobs, and staying away from mobs and having a higher or a larger presence radius means I can still affect them with my lightning res and kill them quicker, even from far away. So this is a test build. Just wanted to put that out there. It was an idea that I had during making the Gimling videos, but now that I'm kind of done, not fully done with the build, it's still viable, it still works, and it's a lot of fun. But I wanted to try something new, and this was what I had come to. And there is something very special about this, in that there's not going to be other builds that I can see that can get as much lightning reduction as this one can, or lightning resistance reduction. And there is an upside where we do not have to take any lightning resistance penetration in the tree or have it anywhere on our jewels. That actually gives us a couple points to spend elsewhere. So there are a few things to be aware of with this. We need to mitigate the following things. We need to mitigate lightning damage over times. In this case, the mana siphoner mobs have that radius around them, which drains our mana. Once it starts hitting our life, it drains our life using a lightning dot. That is very scary when you stay in that bubble for too long, because yeah, you just take lightning damage over time, and it just hurts. And the reason why that's something is because the armor says armor also applies to lightning damage taken from hits, not from damage over time, or not from all lightning damage. So very important that we mitigate that. The way that you mitigate that, at least today, is by just staying away. Like, let's say the mob is here, right? And their mana siphoner aura is like right here. Just stay away from them. Even though this build actually does take close combat, firing far away from them and staying out of the AoE is the best way to mitigate. And you can just hit them with a little bit of lightning rod, and then lightning arrow will take it out. So another one to think about is armor break. In this case, because armor both affects our physical damage taken and our lightning damage from hits taken, we need to be very careful to try to run away from mobs to whenever we're armor broken, or stay away from them long enough to kill them so that you don't take hits. This can be a problem in high density maps or high density mechanics like Breach. It's still very, very good in Breach, don't get me wrong. But the density in Breach and the fact that the mobs are running after you, the same with Delirium. If any of those rares or mobs have armor break capabilities, just very, very scary. Stay away as much as you can. So I talked about this before. Skip the Spires of Deshar quest. It's not really a quest. It's an area in Act 2, both cruel and normal. I'll show it to you. It's actually right here, the Sisters of Garukan. This right here is what you need to stay away from. This gives us plus 10% lightning res, and it's both in Act 2 and Act 2 cruel. And lastly, to be aware of with the build is that we're going Iron Reflexes, which converts all of our evasion rating to armor, because we need to scale our armor high in order for our lightning damage taken to be lower. I want to go over the skills, but this is skills and gear. But I want this video to be fairly short so you get an idea of the build, and then you can ask questions, or you can join the Discord, which will also be down below in the comments to discuss it. And you can also look at the Mobalytics link for a more deep discussion or more deep points on each of my choices. So dual string bow, very important to have additional projectiles and percent fizz and lightning damage with LE damage to attacks. I have armor gloves, but I would recommend going hybrid gloves instead for less stat requirements. You want to go flat damage here with life and res. Life and res on the belt, movement speed, res, and I don't have any life on this, but I did have the 20 strength. I corrupted 23 cold res, and I socketed in a soul core of Tacti for chaos res. It's what I needed. I still need a lot more chaos res, but anyway. Accuracy rating ring. This isn't. It doesn't have to be an emerald ring. It could be anything, but flat damage, flat fizz damage, flat lightning damage, and life, very, very helpful, or very, very good. Mana regen is just very good quality of life. I have a Venture's Gamble. This is not required, but it is a huge quality of life, because without it, we do 40% less damage to mobs, because they're not taking the extra lightning damage from having the negative res. Right now, I don't know what the cap on monsters is. I don't think anybody does for negative res. I believe in Path of Exile 1, the wiki had stated that it was negative 200. So I'm going off of that assumption, which means eventually I will replace this ring for another Venture's Gamble. And that even though I'll lose a lot of damage, here, I'll even show you. Even though I'll lose about 1,000 damage, I think it's worth it, because if I can get 40% more damage with a ring, then that 1,000 damage is only about 10% of my damage, right? So it ends up being much, much more, 30% more damage, right? Amulet with armor and life. I have strength and fire res on this. That's not required unless you need it. Quiver is important. Flat damage, projectile speed, also very important, and attack speed. I go over more about projectile speed and attack speed in the Mobalytics link. And then my helmet, also don't recommend going armor helmet, but I went life, int, because I needed it for Orb of Storms, which I'll talk about in a second, and fire and cold res. So for the skills, we use Lightning Arrow with Conduction, Primal Armament, Fork, and Lightning Infusion. If you need if you need answers on, or if you have any questions on the skills or the supports, I go into why each support's important in the Mobalytics guide. Feel free to check that out. Lightning Rod with Electrocute, Scattershot, and Mobility. Barrage with Premeditation, Ingenuity, and Perpetual Charge. Orb of Storms with Persistence and Magnified Effect. Voltaic Mark with Overcharge and Lasting Shock. Herald of Thunder with Cannibalism. Love this. Love this support so much. Precision and Herbalism. Herbalism's not required. I talk about it in the Mobalytics guide as well. Combat Frenzy, so we can generate our Frenzy charges. Profusion and Clarity. Now, I'll talk a little bit about Barrage. So Barrage gives us an insane amount of single target damage, or just damage in general. So what it does is you can hit R or whatever your skill button is for it, and then the next skill you fire gives you up to, by itself, it repeats 2 times, which means you're going to attack 3 times in succession, but your repeats deal 17% less damage at level 16. I added 20 quality, which quality is very good on this, which reduces that less damage by 15%. So right now my repeat's still 2% less damage. Very, very nice. For Orb of Storms, so just to give you a little bit of how this works. So I'm using Lightning Rod, right? And we're shooting Lightning Rods into the ground. This is only going to be for tanky rares or uniques. And we're going to use Lightning Arrow. And if the mob is sitting inside of the Lightning Rods and you hit them with Lightning Arrow, there's a, what is it called? Yeah, it has a chaining lightning beam. And because it has a chaining lightning beam, it's actually going to chain to these lightning rods, and then the lightning rods are going to burst and deal a lot of damage. And you can see that there's a lot of these on the ground. Like I think I shoot like 5 at a time, 5 or 6 at a time. Well, each of those has its own damage. And so as you can see, or as you can probably tell, if you shoot lightning arrow with these down, you just do a lot of damage. So I had boss kills earlier in the video. The very first kill was getting my my gear upgrades for the build, and then the other 2 were post upgrades. So this is yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over in the map device, and we are going to do a boss with some delirium on this, a tier 5, because I want to level 74. Put these up here. Dumps. So that's not a bad quiver. Oh, chance to cause bleeding. Eh. And I have a helmet I'm going to replace mine with once I get to level 75, which is in 1 more level. So I've been having really weird FPS drops because of shaders. I had to do some things to reload Path of Exile into another instance. I'm using Steam instead of the standalone client. So anyway, if this starts lagging or if there's some issues with it, I apologize in advance. So all we're doing, oh, see, there's mobs that I can't see because of these shaders. Probably have to go to the standalone client again because the Steam one seems to be giving me problems. But yeah, pretty simple. You're pretty quick. It's a pretty quick mapper. You just come up, you attack. If there is anyone that is still alive from you attacking them a few times, you're going to put down some lightning rods and just burst. Super smooth, super simple gameplay. Lightning Arrow Deadeye is just, it's super fast. Super simple gameplay. I don't know how it's going to perform in higher tier maps yet, but the the damage is definitely there. And I'll try to show you whenever I finish the Delirium, because Delirium gets kind of crazy. But there is an icon. So just so you know, when mobs are affected by Doryani's prototype, your lightning res, there's an icon that shows up above them, which you can see. You'll see at the top as I hover over. You see the lightning, or the lightning bolt icon next to the fire bolt icon on the far left, underneath their name. It has a red on it. That means that the resistances is negative. The others are resistances positive. Yeah, I spoke too long, and yeah, so here's the boss. See, pretty quick. Not quite as quick as the Gemling was, but still pretty quick nonetheless. And it has more mobility, in my opinion. So to talk a little bit more about the how we're gaining our frenzy charges, I talk about this in the mobilytics guide, but I'll talk about it here. So whenever I shoot down our lightning rods, see I have one frenzy charge here. Whenever I shoot down my lightning rods, as long as it's going to electrocute, I get a charge. So right now my generation is from lightning rod. And so as long as I'm putting down lightning rods and I'm electrocuting them with them, I get pretty much the full amount of frenzy charges I can get, which is 3. Because I'm not scaling frenzy charges, at least not yet. See, that was a mana siphoner, which is the bane of our build. Very, very quickly killed. Obviously, this is only tier 5 map, so don't know how it's going to perform later with the same gear. But as you can see, very, very fast, very, very clean, simple playstyle. I believe if we can scale our armor enough to get higher than 75% mitigation, right? Get this number to 75% or higher. I believe that will make it to where not having lightning res is actually very, very nice. It'll be better than having lightning res. At least that's my understanding. If that's not correct, please let me know in the comments. And so, yeah. So at this point, my next pieces of gear will be replacement gear for my helmet, which I already have. And I will probably replace my... I think my boots. No, my boots are okay. I'll replace something because I need more chaos resistance. And then once it gets to 65 or 75 chaos res, I should be fairly tanky for most AoEs. Now, I did notice when I was in a map before, I think it was a tier 6 map, tier 6 or 7 map. I was one shot by an explosion. We didn't really have that happen too much on the Gemling, or at least a lot less happen. And I didn't expect it to happen so early on in maps, or yellow maps, I guess. So my I may the mobilytics guy gets into this, but I may change my ascendancy from going for instead of going for frenzy charges here, I may go for wind ward, but tailwind is not up as often because we're not evading. And on that note, one of you or some of you may say, hey, why go tailwind if you're not going evasion rating? Or why even go Deadeye because you're not doing evasion rating? Well, it's a great question, but the reason why I'm going Deadeye is for the extra projectile and the close combat. It's very, very good damage. We do lose out on the evasion rating per stack, but we do get the increased skill speed and the movement speed, which makes just the character move and attack way faster, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna try to kill one more rare before leaving, but it looks like I have a lot of mobs still left in the map. Maybe down here. So one thing to talk about also is leveling. I don't know if I talked about this in the Mobalytics guide, but the way that I leveled this character is I originally started off with basically this whole setup, which is Lightning Rod, Orb of Storms, and Lightning Arrow. Oh, and I forgot to talk about that, but I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, same rotation, Lightning Rods, and then Lightning Arrow through to hit the mobs, and then wait for them to get shocked or what have you, and then just do as much damage as possible while staying mobile. Oh, there's the last rare. I did swap though later on once I could get access to Gas Arrow. I swapped over to Gas Arrow because I believed it was a quicker leveling experience, and I don't know if that's necessarily true. Exalt, nice. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but feel free to test it yourself. I used Gas Arrow with Radiant Grief to perma or to ignite enemies, and then I used the Gas Arrow on top of the enemies, and then the explosions would do enough damage to kill them. So almost in one shot every time, and the bossing potential was ridiculous for leveling. So at 37, I think I didn't swap over to Doryani's until about 43 to 45, level 43, 45. But once I did, I made sure that I tried to scale my lightning res down. Excuse me. Well, I guess there's not really a way to do that without Venters, but you can't use the Venters until level 64. So from then on, you'll have to just take whatever the negative lightning res is that you receive from the resistance penalties as you progress in the campaign. So yeah, thanks so much for. I had one more thing to talk about. So when you land lightning rods and you place down a Orb of Storms, this Orb of Storms has chaining potential, and it will shock, or not shock. It will chain to enemies in the radius. And so if you feel like you want to just burst down anything, you would want to go lightning rods, and then plop down a Orb of Storms, and then just keep shooting. They will go down like a sack of potatoes. So anyway, if you have any more questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below, and I appreciate you sticking around on the video, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.